Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Odie Hawkins, and I'm about to do something that I've been asked to do, which is not my usual mode of going about things.
True.
But in this instance, I'm just joking. I'm here with Zola Salena-Hawkins,
Mm-hmm.
who's the producer, director, uh, video person. And we start off by saying it's been a real pleasure to have read all of the Ghetto Sketches 2021. Now, here's the interesting thing. Ghetto Sketches 2021 came about
Okay.
as a result of the book being published by Holloway House, which sold its assets to Kensington Press, and I managed to retrieve rights to the book and reissue it with a new formatting and so forth and so on. I also wrote the sequel to Ghetto Sketches and gave it to that particular publishing house before they went out of business. They published the sequel to Ghetto Sketches and called it The Busting Out of an Ordinary Man.
And the reason they did that is because they had the cover available and no manuscript for the cover.
You beat me to the punchline.
So there you go.
It was just a little bit more complex than that, but
The cover has nothing to do with
cover has nothing to do, but it shows you why it is that I can sit here and talk so badly about this particular publishing company. They had a weird sense of what was supposed to be a cover of a book, especially the sequel.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't like sequels, you said.
And they didn't like
A sequel.
It's a long story, but this is what they printed.
Okay, and it's interesting that they would say they didn't like sequels, but they could take your picture and put it on the cover of several different books.
Well, that has a story too,
Yeah.
because they were kind of stingy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know very much about photography, but what they did was take one photo, pretty good photo, and just simply reprint it in different color tints. I think one is blue, and one is pink, and the other is green or something, and they used it for 4 other books. And once again, I have to answer the question that someone asked, why did you go to them? Why did you deal with them? And I have to say, once again, that was the only game in town. Mm-hmm. And if you show me a writer who wants to simply write his works and pile them up in a corner, I'll show you somebody who is not after public attention. Most of us are after public attention. Before I get into the reading of Ghetto Sketches 2, which is the sequel to Ghetto Sketches, I want to say we're all concerned and involved with the struggle that the Ukrainian people are going through right now. But I hope it doesn't leave a lot of people bereft of the news that they need to have about the struggle that African American people are going through with continuing to be able to vote freely in this country. As we can see, freedom, as someone once said, is not free. And as I look at the disaster happening there, I think about our situation here. Yes, we're being shot, but not at the rate that those people are losing their lives. Yes, we're being treated very well in some kind of material ways, but I feel like something of a shadow is closing in on the American democracy, which is really a terrible thing because this is a very great country. Mm-hmm. And I've said it often, so it's no secret. The one thing I feel that keeps this country from being one of the greatest countries on earth is racism. The legacy of slavery has left us with what we're dealing with right now. And hopefully the Ukrainians will overcome their adversaries, and hopefully African Americans will be allowed to continue to vote, because it's what we've earned the right to do in this country as slaves, with shedding of blood and sweat and lives.
And fighting for the democracy way in the various wars.
Every time they call on us to fight for democracy, it's always been kind of a hypocritical thing, because, I'm thinking about uncles who went to fight for democracy who couldn't vote in Mississippi or New York.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get things sorted out and keep matters in perspective. Like I said, I'm pro Ukrainian, but at the same time I'm pro African American. So
it would be great for democracy to work.
Can you say it again?
It would be great for democracy to work in all nations, for really. And voting is the foundation, one of the foundations for a true democracy.
You know, it's interesting. I just saw a little newspaper, a little TV clip of a guy from New Jersey who's on his way to help the Ukrainians. He has no military background, he has a good job, and the interviewer is asking him, what was it that made you feel like you had to go there? He says, well, their freedom was being threatened. And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't you go to Mississippi or New York or Minneapolis, Chicago, Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, maybe he did.
Well, maybe when he comes back, if he survives, he might begin to look at what's happening in his own country. You know, a lot of people didn't really begin to think about America as a, kind of a naughty place until George Floyd was murdered. And they took to the streets, we saw them, we talked to them, we were there with them. And they were saying we didn't know things were like this. And you want to say, well, I think black people have been publishing news of their condition ever since 1619.
Right.
Which takes us to Ghetto Sketches 2.
Which is AKA the busting out of an ordinary man.
You got it.
Okay.
I'm reading from the manuscript because the book is not something to be read from.
Well, the original Author House, yes, version.
The photography, I'm proud to say, was done by none other than Zola Salena-Hawkins. And this is for the reissued book. Now, this was the original issue by Holloway House, which showed they didn't care anything about anything. They just had an extra cover for some other book, and they decided to use the cover. This one that was done specifically for Ghetto Sketches 2.
And if you want to hold up the picture.
I want to hold up a little more detailed version of that.
That's the photo that was taken for the cover of.
If you go to certain sections of Chicago or New York or some other places where you have ghettos, you'll find this is a familiar sight. Of course, it's also a familiar sight in prison. Okay. Okay, let's begin. I'm starting this reading with all of that explanation, and also right now I'm going to begin with something called a prologue. But first I have to take a taste of this wonderful guava palm juice with ice cubes in it. That gives you energy.
Mm-hmm.
And zoom. Prologue. She struggled to her feet and reached over to her knitting basket. She carefully inspected the sharp points of 2 of the needles to make certain that there was no material attached to them, snatched her pillow from the bed and pulled a clean sheet out of her closet. She almost burst into tears as she walked back into the kitchen to find Lena staring at the table as though it were a slab in the city morgue. The 2 women moved slowly, covering the table with the sheet as though they were performing a ritual. Miss Rabbit placed a pillow at one end and 2 chairs, stirrup style, at both sides of the table at the other end. Efficiently, she checked the back door lock, made certain that all of the shades were drawn, and came finally to stand in front of Lena's body on the table. Now let me ask you again, Lena. Are you sure you don't want to have this? A slow trickle of tears slid down Lena Daniels' high cheekbones as she lay on the table. Yes, I want to have this baby. Lord knows I do. But we can't afford it, Miss Rabbit. We can hardly afford to feed the ones we got. Did you wash it good? She asked, sharply, masking her feelings. Uh-huh. Good. Now here, help me. This dedication is to, the book is dedicated to Zola Salena-Hawkins, my soulmate. I'm saying the little woman who made the big life a reality with love and blessings.
Oh, thank you, Odie.
Let me read that again so you'll. This dedication is to Zola Salena-Hawkins, my soulmate, the little woman who made the big life a reality with love and blessings. Just so there would be no mistake about what I'm saying.
Thank you, Odie Hawkins.
Chapter 1, Monday. My dearest Quindy, I hope you're past your depression by now. Your last letter bothered me very much. I almost feel ashamed sometimes to admit that my love for you is so great, so profoundly tuned to what goes through you that the vibe from your letter told me that you were about to do something uncool. Please, baby, don't. You know how badly they want to wipe your strong, beautiful black ass away? You know what I almost said, don't you? Quindy, seriously, don't do anything that would foul you up. The lawyers are doing all they can. Your defense money is steadily coming in. People have become more concerned and aware of how rank the shit is here. Like yesterday was you, tomorrow it might be anyone, even one of the apathetic ones. At any rate, all I'm saying is that I love you, Goo-Gob. I miss you. And in order for us to ever be together again to fight the battle with this crazy, weird, hypocritical, racist-ass society that we know we have to be fighting to make the sweet black babies we've been talking about through that screen for about the last 5 years, to do anything that we've planned, then you must be alive. You know they want to kill you, baby. You know that. And all they need is any kind of excuse, any kind. I'm not trying to tell you to submit to anything or be less than the man you are or anything like that. I just want you to be cool and be careful. Quindy, I love you so much. Because we both decided a long time ago that we would be fair and honest with each other about our feelings. I don't feel any need to hold back, to conceal this terrible hunger I feel inside for you. Maybe the season has something to do with it. Fall always makes me feel more nostalgic than usual. I took a walk in the park yesterday in search of some leaves to kick around and spent an hour going through as many moments in our relationship as I could remember. Quindy, I love you so much. The feeling gushes up in me so strong at times that I feel it's almost like I felt the first time we made love. Remember me, baby? The 18-year-old innocent that you didn't want to make love to because you thought it would be too heavy a scene for my head, remember? Mm-hmm. I laugh out loud sometimes thinking about us, 2 dumb 18-year-old fools who almost respected each other to death. You afraid to seduce a sister because you felt that that might be considered counter-revolutionary or some such thing. And me, with my stupid self, almost letting you get away with it. Just think, if we had known what was going to go down, we would have been a lot less careful, and maybe I would have your child here. Quindy, I miss you so much. I feel so distracted, so alone at times. I'm taking care of maximum business in every direction, feeling strong, with the thought that my lover, my man, is locked away from me. It weighs me down sometimes. But who the hell am I to complain? Many sisters might hesitate, I think, to write the man in their lives a letter like this, especially if he were in the joint. I am not now, nor do I think I could ever be that image-ridden sister who refuses to let her carefully arranged afro mask fall away, telling herself, being rational, that her man only wants to hear nothing but the safe, pleasant, groovy things. Emotionally, we're both in prison, and I can't help spilling my guts out to the only person in the world who understands me. As a writer, when I write it out to you, spell words, say to my dearest, dearest Quindy, darling, I love you, and I know that you, as a fellow writer, as my man, will find more than anyone else could hope to find in those 3 words. When I can do that, it makes my nights more bearable. I'm carrying on our people's work as best I can without you. Ojin Kasi, Abdul, Nisi, Maisha, and a few others remain the hard, strong core. The others remain more or less constant. The main problem we have is lack of leadership. I know what you're going to say in your next letter, that we should all be leaders. But for some reason, it just doesn't quite work out that way. The theater section of the group has started a thing they call GD, getting down. And it's being given a good response by the community. Several other projects are working out quite well also. I'll tell you more about them on visiting day. Does it seem strange to you that yesterday we were 18 and now we're both 23? Time seems to stand still or pass itself by. I'm afraid I must end this now, leaving so much unsaid that we may need another lifetime to cover half of it. But it doesn't matter, my spirits are high and my love is strong. With all my best love, Lubertha, your Kush. P.S. I'm sure you've heard about Baby June, but you'd have to see him to really believe the change. Unreal. Monday evening, the dreariest week, the dreariest day of the week, anyway. But especially in African American ghetto. People, having taken hangovers and other symptoms of a fast weekend to their individual sections of the plantations around town, return, the weight of 4 more days and maybe 5 of clock punching and lockstepping ahead of them before the eagle flies. Mrs. Nelda Washington, better known as Big Mama, shuffled her elbows, recrossed her arms, and spat into the Maxwell Coffeehouse can at her feet, barely paying any mind to the receptacle, being so certain of her aim, and turned her full attention back to the people passing back and forth on the sidewalk in front of her. She knew them all, some since babyhood. Lubertha, on her way to the mailbox with another letter to, what was the child's name? Quindy, Quinjo, Kuwan, something like that. Shame that they threw him away in jail like that. Hi, Big Mama, how you doing? Big Mama shot another swift stream of snuff juice into the can before answering, slowly, as was her habit. Oh, I don't know, Lubertha. Passable, I guess. With the good Lord blessings, I'll live. Well, you take it easy, Roberta answered graciously. I'm going down to the corner. You want anything? No, can't say that I do, daughter, just now. Bessie promised to bring me some snuff when she got home. Thanks anyway. Roberta waved and kept on, her head held high, her back straight. Big Mama studied her movement for a few steps, recalling the Roberta Franklin she knew from 5 years back. Lord in heaven. Sitting ashamed the things that happened to people. Girl can't be but 20. 21 at the most. And she's got them old hard lines around her mouth like a woman 30. Well, I guess that's what's happened when you lose your man. She sighed deeply and nodded to a strange face that happened to look up and see her. The face, surprised at the neighborly gesture, frowned and picked up his pace. Funny how much afraid people is when you try to be friendly. Big Mama shivered, looked up at the narrow pitch of gray sky that hung over her street, and at that moment thought about her husband. Wonder if Booker went to heaven. No, not likely. That's what the hell is that man raised. Thought he was the greatest thing in pants, with his moonshining, his sly ways, and all that pride he had, because his daddy had named him Booker, after Booker T. Another autumn breeze eased through, bringing goose pimples out on her fleshy arms. She spat again and pulled her sweater a little tighter around her shoulders. Her mind slipped away from her dead husband, dead for 12 years. As the thought of the hard winter she saw ahead in the clouds above. She stood up slowly, a darker version of Ethel Waters. Well, we all remember Ethel Waters. Bracing her hands on her arthritic knees as she prepared to close down her window. During all seasons, Big Mama sat in the spring, summer, and early fall on the top level of the stone porch jutting out from her apartment building in the late fall and winter behind the glass pane, seeing and taking everything in. She closed the windows, a can of soup and some crackers already prepared mentally, and stood at the window for a minute, her knuckles pressed down on the window ledge as she watched Baby June stride up and down the street selling the Muslim newspaper, the Bilalian. Baby June! Baby June! She called out to him. Yes, ma'am? He answered as though on cue, turning his way with her way with quickness. Bring me one of them. Baby June smiled slightly as he tripped up the stone steps of the porch, a paper already folded and held out for her delivery. Here you are, Sister Washington, he said, leaning over the edge of the porch to hand her the paper. Big Mama reached out for the paper with her left hand as she fumbled down into her apron pocket with her right. There's no charge for you, Sister Washington, Robert 30X said graciously, knowing that her coins were, as usual, short. Well, thank you, Robert. Lord, I just can't remember to call you nothing but Baby June. Oh, that's quite all right, Sister Washington, quite all right. Big Mama smiled at Robert 30X, formerly called Baby June in his dope fiend salad days, feeling a material pride in his super neatness. Too bad Sister Sadie didn't live long enough to see the change happen, Big Mama thought. Robert 30X stood at respectful attention, his heels together, feet spread at a precise 35-degree angle. Thanks again, now, Robert. I'm going to read this with my mind open, just like you asked me to do. I appreciate that, Sister Washington. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that only an open mind is ready for the truth. And please remember the offer I made to you about attending services in the mosque. It's still open. All you have to do is just let me know when you like to go, and we'll have a car pick you up and bring you back. That'd be really nice, Bob. Really nice, Bobby. Really nice. As soon as I'm feeling a little bit better, I just might go on over there. Anytime, Sister Washington. Anytime. Robert 30X sang out as he bowed slightly in her direction and skipped away down the steps to intercept Lou Bertha returning from the mailbox. Big Mama closed the window again, watching Robert 30X match Lou Bertha stride for stride as she dug down into her jeans for the price of a newspaper. She lowered her shade and pulled the old, heavily brocaded curtains together and shuffled away from the window, fumbling to put her reading glasses on. Hung on a string around her neck. Placed the paper on her all-purpose kitchen table. Opening a can of chicken noodle soup, counting out 5 saltine crackers, and measuring a short glass of milk into a tall mason jar, she read aloud the headline of the paper. "Raise your own food, black man." Phyllis Evans looked over the counter at the little dude wandering around the store, his nose bleeding, a thin trickle of snot that he had already wiped off on the forearm of his sweater from time to time. Watching him, she pretended that he was just a window shopper inside the store, made her smile. "May I help you, sir?" she asked in her most officious voice. He looked at her shyly, trying to be hip, and answered, "No, I was just looking." Fronting it off, huh? She smiled at him knowingly and dipped into the oatmeal cookie jar, pulled out 2 of them, and handed them across to him. The little boy looked surprised for a second, snatched the cookies from her hand with one great motion, and ran out of the store, woofing on one as he went. Phyllis shook her head sadly, knowing that he was probably eating his first meal of the day. She backed into the high stool behind the counter, her eyes still on the door, the jingling bell above, and her thoughts still on the boy. Well, at least mine don't have to go through that. Maybe Mama made a good choice after all. She gazed around the store, a Mama and Papa affair with 2 aisles and a small meat display counter. Yeah, maybe Mama did the right thing. Her stepfather never called anything but Old Man Jackson, the Geechee, charged through the door with a crate on his shoulder. "Why don't you get off that stool and come help me?" he called out to her in his West Indian sing-song. Phyllis, her thoughts jarred by his sudden entrance, stumbled as she dismounted the stool. What you say? What's the matter? You hard of hearing? I said, come help me. She skirted the edge of the counter, grinding her teeth together. Even after 5 years, she still found it hard to understand Old Man Jackson sometimes, especially when he got excited and his Barbadian dialect thickened. He was already inside the store with the crate. What did he want? She stood in front of him, hand clasped behind her back, a question mark on her face. Hurry up out there and get that large brown pig in the front seat of the truck. Make it quick else the damn diesel be coming beaching to get to it. Philistine hurried out to his many-dented pickup truck, rubbing her arm suddenly chilled by the late afternoon cool. She struggled to pull the shopping bag from the cab of the truck, cursing under her breath. Hurry up, Philistine, we ain't got all day. The Old Man Jackson yelled as he rushed to pull the burglar guard mesh across the front of the store. Philistine muscled a sack of potatoes out and struggled into the store with him. She looked hatefully at her stepfather's back as he quickly removed the day's tape from the register, scurried around checking the alarm system, turning off lights. Where do you want me to put these? He turned to her, and with the surprising burst of warmth that caught her off balance softened. Oh, just leave him there. I'll dump him in the bin tomorrow. She watched him carefully reach into the meat display counter and give a final pat to the long meatloaf-shaped piece of sausage he had brought in, that and 24 half-stale steaks cleverly covering each other, the result of dealing with the neighborhood dope fiends. Damn, he really moves quick for an old dude, she thought, watching him scurry around one last time. All set to go? Phyllis nodded affirmatively in the dim light, anxious to get outside to find out what had gone down during the time she'd been locked up. Where's your mother? He asked abruptly as he slammed the guard mesh together and padlocked it. She's upstairs with the kids. Old man Jackson frowned slightly, went over to the curb to make certain that his truck was locked, and returned to Phyllis standing at the foot of the steps leading to their apartment over the store, growling, You meant to say that she had left her down there by herself in a store? Not all day, she was down in the morning, but then I spelled her in the afternoon. Old man Jackson frowned and started up the step mumbling. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. Should be a grown-up in the store all times. All times. He was at the top of the steps before he realized she wasn't behind him. You're coming up or not? He asked, his question as blunt and gruff as the rest of his action. No, not right now. I'm going to walk over to Mary Jo's for a while. Well, don't stay too long, you know. You might get when you leave alone with the kids too long. I ain't going to be long, she answered, easing away down the street. He entered the hallway of their building and slammed the door behind him. Should be a grown-up in the store all time, all time. She corrected her thought. Shit, what was I? If I ain't grown. What did it take beyond having 2 babies and being 18 years old to be considered a grown-up? She dug her hands into her pockets, stepping into the brisk evening breeze, having no definite place to go. Mary Jo's was a lame excuse. Mary had gotten strung out 2 years ago and disappeared. But neither Mr. Jackson nor her mother knew. They didn't care to know, being so busy trying to make ends meet. Daddy. Maybe I'll run into him. He's usually someplace around the dewdrop round about this time. She walked a little faster, feeling happier about the possibility of seeing her father. Hey, Phyllis! Phyllis! Billy Woods called to her from across the street. She watched him, a neutral expression on her face, dodge around and between cars to reach her. Billy Woods, almost a brother to her from living in the same neighborhood so long, she felt. But somehow the point was never fully conveyed to Billy. Where you on your way? He asked, trying to be cool about it. She almost lied, but thought better of it. I lied. I was just taking a little walk. Any place special? Not really. I'm going your way. I really much rather be by myself, she said coldly. Billy's eyes wandered over her body before he coughed deep in his throat, trying to cover up the slap to his macho. Right on. I can dig where you're coming from, he replied lamely, trying to save face. Everybody needs to have some time by themselves. Phyllis turned away from him, feeling a little embarrassed for him, but felt she was doing the right thing. After all, she didn't dig him. She knew exactly what he was after, and she wasn't going to give him any, so why jive? Billy Woods, like most of the dudes in and around the neighborhood, wanted to copy Phyllis. Copy Phyllis, dig it? Mm-hmm. Why not? The damage had already been done, and what was left just had to be pure jelly. Mm. Billy looked wistfully at her full, taut buttocks as she strolled away. Phyllis, aware that he was following her movement, tried to tighten the roll of her hips but failed. These jive-ass motherfuckers. All they wanted is a piece of pussy. They ain't gonna do shit to help you with your kids or nothing. Bunch of chicken shit niggas. Mama's right, niggas ain't shit. Mm. She walked past Big Mama's window across the street in front of Lou Burton's apartment building, thought about Mayflower's death as she passed his building and turned the corner. The dewdrop inn glared at her from the end of the block, drew her like a neon magnet. What do I say to him if I run into him, she asked herself, slowing down despite the deepening chill. She never felt fully capable of handling herself when the mood came down on her, the mood to see her father. Long ago, when she had been pregnant with a rapist baby, her father came around with 3 other men, asking her to tell them who had raped her. She never told them because she didn't know. But she did know that True Man was the father of the second one. The one they had trying to forget the traumatic experience of the rape. True Man. The thought of him made her jam her hands deeper into her pockets. What had he said in his last letter? Soon as I get out, we're going to get together for real. She peered into the bar hesitantly, blinking her eyes in the semi-dark. He ain't in here, honey. A buxom woman in a champagne-colored afro wig called out to her. I'm looking for him myself, with his raunchy ass. Phyllis ignored the raucous laughter that spilled out at her, turned and started back home. Of all people, why don't I have to run into that bitch of his? Hey, look at here, Miss Lady. Let me buy you a drink. A tricky voiced, superfly type sang out to her softly from the interior of his gangster white walls at the curb. She nodded no thanks quickly and began walking faster, getting away from the sly looks, the chilliness of the air, and the rapidly descending darkness. Too bad old man Jackson ain't like my real father. So cool, so smooth, so hip. Oh well, I guess you can't have everything. At least we got a roof over our heads and food every day. Mama know what she doing. Rudolph Little, alias Rappin' Rudy, in case you didn't really know what his old name was, fumbled with 3 of his books, dropped them on the sidewalk as he made his way down the steps from his 3rd-floor apartment, cursed, picked them up, and rushed past Phyllis to get the 715 downtown. Hi, Rudy. Phyllis spoke coyly to him as he dashed past. Oh, hey, Phil, what's happening? He replied, not really caring to know. Pre-law, the current government scandals involving so many lawyers, the American judicial setup, decisions of the Supreme Court from 1925 to 1965, and a dozen jurisprudential matters on his brain, in addition to the fact that he was running late again. He was at the corner before he fully realized he had spoken to Phyllis. Boy, busy.
Yes, he was.
Wow. I gotta slow down a little taste. Philistine? Yeah. He probed himself as the buster probed. No, not for her. Fine as she is, for myself. She ain't into nothing but 2 crumb crushes and no ambition. Yeah, I better slow down for my own good. He mounted the bus steps with 2 jumps, dropped his coins into the fare box, and dashed to the back of the bus, determined to read 1 more chapter before class. The bus moved along, lurching and jerking, making it harder for him to concentrate. Miss Rabbit sat across from Lena Daniels at her table, sipping strong black coffee and listening to Lena cocking her left eyebrow from an inverted V from time to time, as Lena rapped to her about a developing problem. So that's why, you see, I just can't have no more babies. Not right in through here anyway. Miss Rabbit countered her bold question and plea for help with an oblique glance at the sample above her kitchen stove. God bless this home. God bless this home, she read slowly, moving her full lips slightly. So now what you want me to do, Lena? Lena Daniels twists her gold wedding band around 2-3 times, nervously. I want you to help me out, Miss Rabbit. I know you can. I just don't know what to do, she added, a pathetic curl to her tone. How you know I can help you? Miss Rabbit asked sharply, her eyes narrowed in a threatening way. Somebody told you I could? Oh, no, Miss Rabbit, ain't nobody told me nothing about what you could do. Nobody. Well, then, if that's the case, What made you come to me with your problem? Lena Daniels' eyes darted from one corner of the room to another, settled down finally on the coffee cup in front of her as she spoke in a low monotone. Remember a few years back when Jim was messing off all his money and fooling around in the streets? This rabbit released a satisfied smile at the memory of her constructive interference. Daggone right, I remember. Got him squared away quite nicely, as I recollect. Remember how you blessed Jumbo and Suki Man after they came down with whatever it was they had, and they got well, had the doctor all confused and everything. This rabbit smile broadened, showing 7 dark, empty spaces strategically arranged in her teeth. Of course, I remember all that. Miss Rabbit, I just can't have this baby. I can't have this baby. Miss Rabbit leaned forward toward her padded arm maternally, sat back in her chair, lit a cigarette and smoked half of it before saying anything. Lena, you know, doing something like what you're talking about is damn serious. Lena nodded solemnly in agreement. I know it is, Miss Rabbit, I know it is. But we got 6 now. And you know how hard times is. Miss Rabbit nodded and turned, stabbed a cigarette out and lit another one. She took 4 slow, deliberate drags. Tell you what, honey, today is Monday. Let me thank and pray on it for a couple of days. A look of deep gratitude washed across Lena Daniels' full face as she reached across the table impulsively to grab Miss Rabbit's hand. Now, don't be getting all hit up and everything. He spoke in a semi-stern voice. I didn't say I'd do anything. I just said I'd pray on it. Lena's look of gratitude became a bit more guarded, but refused to fully slip away. I understand, Miss Rabbit. Whatever you decide will be okay with me. This rabbit took a full professional look at her waistline. About 3 months gone, huh? Just about to the day. Well, that ain't too terrible bad. She shuffled a few steps to the back door with Lena, her arms draped lovingly around the younger woman's waist. You know something, Miss Rabbit? Lena said to her as she was about to take her first step out of the door. What's that, honey? Sometimes I wish you had raised me. Miss Rabbit's stern, gentle features softened. Go on, girl. Go on, get out of here with them children of yours. She scolded her gruffly, ill at ease with Lena's thoughts. Lena smiled, understanding. Miss Rabbit watched her make it down to the alley before closing the door. She shuffled back to the kitchen stove, reheated the coffee, poured herself another cup, sat down at the table and began to cry. A quiet trail of tears spilled down alongside her nose, over her high cheeks, as she wrestled with the deep problem of taking the life of Lena Daniels, of destroying something that nobody but God had a right to destroy. Oh, my Lord, please give me a sign. She moaned and lowered her head to the table to pray. I think I'm going to read some more later tomorrow, but not now because this is a good place to stop.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And one can see, having read Ghetto Sketches 2021, that it definitely is the sequel.
Oh, can you get that?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
You know,
I was wondering,
characters
sometimes it might seem like it's too disconnected from,
But
but I'm
it's-
trying to read. Go ahead, you were saying.
I was just going to say that your reading was a nice escape from the madness that's going on right now. So, deeply appreciated for reading to escape for just a moment in time.
A moment in time.
Thank you.
That's what it all is, a moment in time.
Changes all the time.
Well,
You say the only thing that's constant is change.
that's right, that's right. I think then that we'll change the moment
All right.
from now on, I mean from then till now,
Yes, sir.
and look back at this hey, let's say on Monday.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So
there's
this will be
certainly
a Monday reading.
a Monday reading. There's
All
certainly
right.
enough going on. All right. Thank you very much. The book, which is titled The Busting Out of the Ordinary Man, can be purchased on Amazon. And when we reissue it again, it will be called The Busting Out of an Ordinary Man, a.k.a. Ghetto Sketches 2.
Sure.
Okay? In the
I
meantime...
talked to the editor about why he changed his title.
Uh-huh.
And he said, well, you mentioned it already. We had an extra title going around,
Right.
and we didn't have any book to put it on.
Right.
So somebody thought it would be a good idea to put it on your book.
Okay. Brilliant. Nobody reading it first. Anyway, there again, people, make judgments on books without reading them.
Well,
Okay, as we saw with Mouse.
oh.
Okay, but then that's a...
Isn't that a criminal thing?
Mm-hmm.
The book is about the stories from the Holocaust, one of the Holocaust. And someone decided that it was somehow other...
Had some nudity in it.
Nudity?
But
What
the
nudity?
cartoon, and it's only cats and mice. Okay? And the
Somebody must have got their freak on
I know.
to see that as
Talk about
obscene.
well, I guess they,
Do they I
Well,
don't want to say it.
yeah,
You-
really mistake. Well, with that, my dear, we'll see you next Monday, and for another YouTube and
Itness.
Itness.
Itness.